Holy smokes, do we got a show today? This is a stacked show, and I don't know how long we're going to be. We might be on for a very long time. We got a lot to get through. We're going to open up the phone lines as early as possible. I really don't have a monologue all set up. I'm not going to be reading. We're going to read a little bit of the Ross Dillinger article of the Big Ten and the SEC plotting in a meeting coming up here soon. We talked about this on Peek Around the Corner live show about a month ago. We gave you the peek. The Big Ten is going to push all their chips in the middle of the table. They want what they want when it comes to the new college football playoff format. And we said you were going to be hearing something about it in the next couple of months. Well, here we are. And it's going to get more explosive. Yes, the Big Ten and the SEC, they're going to consult the Big 12. They're going to consult the ACC. They're going to consult the playoff media partner, which is ESPN and whoever they sublicense to, TNT, whatever. But if the SEC and the Big Ten agree with each other, then they have the power to change it. With the exceptions of the protections, there are certain protections out there for the G5 and for the Big 12 and the ACC. But beyond those protections, and I believe that the SEC and the Big 10, of course, are going to come to some agreement. That's why they are meeting here very soon, next month. We gave you the peek. It's what we do here at College Football, peek around the corner. We know what the Big 10 is pushing for. I told you we had it in duplicate and basically triplicate. But I'm just going to say we have it in duplicate. Duplicate sources from, and I said it on the live show about a month ago. The Big 10 is pushing for radical change for 2026 and beyond in the college football playoff format. We're going to get to that. That was some breaking news from Ross Dellinger of, I don't know, maybe 2 hours ago. UNLV and Air Force. The title of the screen is UNLV Air Force stay in Mountain West Conference ? Question mark. Now, normally I would say I would have an explanation point. But even that is not official yet. About 2 minutes, well, no. About 15 minutes ago, it was reported by Nicole Auerbach. Still not quite official yet that UNLV and Air Force is going to stay in the Mountain West. And then, right before we came on live, Sacramento State is making a push to get into the Pac-12. There's a report out there that Texas State has been talking to the Pac-12, to the Mountain West Conference. In UTEP, in New Mexico State, North Dakota State, South Dakota State. Holy smokes, this is not over yet. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Turn on your notifications. We can come on live at any time. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to this college football rebel outpost where all the college football sickos go to congregate, to talk with each other, to throw elbows at each other in the chat room. If you want to donate to this channel to help us keep the lights on, hit the $ where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio. Even the Michigan Wolverines, who are about to lay waste to my beloved Golden Gophers. Even the Wolverines are welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. PATC community, do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. Holy smokes, let's do a quick roll call and then we got to get to all the stories. Bruce Harris is in the house. Kyle Visser, Colorado Buffalo, Richard L. AMAC, J Go Blue. J Go Blue's in the house. KS Bear Fan, Thomas, Sheep and Wolf's Clothing, Preston from Greensboro. This is all nuts. Humble Bumble Duck, Mr. TCU Hornfrog McStevens is in the house. Kill Ball CFB Plus. I apologize for the delay. There's about 3 different reasons for it, and it all has to do with content of the show. Waiting on something, knew something was coming, and waiting on another item. Again, keep your head on a swivel. Let me know if any breaking news as we're doing the show. Send the link to me in my DM on my X. I appreciate it. There's a lot of stuff going on. Caleb Ramirez is in the house. Gene Calderon, The Walking Geek, Patrick Baylor Bear. Is Greg prepared for the big blue beatdown? No. No, I'm not, to be honest. I'm 56 years old. I'm 56 years old. The fat guy from Minnesota. I have been brutally brutalized. I've been part of beatdowns for decades. There are some exceptions when it comes to the Wolverines. 2014, 1997, 1986, 1977. Not that I'm keeping track. Not that I have these seared into my brain. There are about 4 exceptions here in my lifetime. Big games that the Gophers beat Michigan. But every other time, we have been trucked. Well, one time we lost when we had a 28-7 lead. Daryl Thompson. We're not going to talk about that. So there's been a couple times Michigan has defeated Minnesota, and it was in the grasp of Minnesota, but we lost it. But most of the time, it's a beatdown, and no, I'm not prepared. I'm not. I'm going to go into Saturday's game. I'm going to watch the game. We're going to do 2 night watch parties. Georgia, Alabama, Illinois, Penn State. So join us for those double watch party Saturday night. I'm going to watch the Michigan game. And no matter how many times I tell myself we're going to get doors blown off, I'm still going to feel crushed when the game is out of control early in the third quarter or late in the second quarter. I'm still going to feel that pain, that miserable pain. Dustin Flaneur. I just saw your last name and I'm like, whoa! For a moment there, I thought you were a Flugar. F-L-U-G-A-U-R. But you are F-L-A-N-E-U-R. I don't know if you're Austrian or German, but welcome in anyways. Appreciate you coming on in. Michael's in the house. We're going to talk about that Florida situation. Casey Mallory, Randy Taylor, Florida Canes. Vox Quindardo is in the house. Jonathan Weaver is here. Haven't seen Jonathan in a while. IOWA. Holy smokes. John Bennett. John Dry's in the house. Man, we got everybody here. We've got a stacked show. I know that. George Holton is here. RFR Mac is here. Coy is in the house. Buckshot Kid. Marcus Williams. The Almighty Finn. Joshino. Pack 8 2.0. Michael Bias is here. Poor Mountain West getting torn apart all from greed. Golden Gophers will shock the world. Golden Gophers will shock the world. If Portland State ever gets over the whooping cough outbreak, maybe the Pack will give them a call. Is that what I've got? Do I have a whooping cough? Holy smokes. When I went in, when I was sick in August, the doctor looked at me and said, you're probably going to have a cough for at least 6 weeks. Well, it's been longer than 6 weeks, and I still got that cough. Great for Trojan. I'm going to get to that. Started a fundraising effort to build a new stadium to either join the Pack or the Mountain West. Man, things are things are getting just a little bit crazy out there. Little bit crazy out there. We're going to get to that. Charles M. is in the house. Moan Vision. Mr. Buckeye is here. Two Master, Jared Jones, another Buckeye. Larry Andrick, Mr. Mountaineer. Daniel's in the house. Immaculate. Mr. Hawkeye MBM. Go Oklahoma State Cowboys. Go Pokes. Bobby Hansen is in the house. Juan Carlos, Whoa Nelly, Expedition Greg, Che Chapman, Mountaineer S, Michael Smith. Scattown is a good TV market. But do you need a third California school in the Pac-12? Man, I don't see it. But you all can tell me how wrong I am. Expedition Greg, thank you so much for a gift membership. Free West, you were gifted a membership. When you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Expedition Greg for his generosity. And I'm going to say thank you right now, Expedition Greg. Thank you for your kindness, for all the help you give to the show. I appreciate it very, very much. Both of you are hereby knighted, cloak, and dagger. We had to put off an episode that was supposed to drop this morning, and I had to put it off again. We're waiting on something. We're waiting on a lot of things here. This is just, we are in a brush fire. But there is high winds and other things could be popping. So I think it's a good time to become a member of our program. Let's just put it that way. Go to the description box below the video, hit the link, hit the join button. Okay, we got so much to get to. Thank you, everybody, for coming on in. Appreciate it. Well, let's get to... I have so many messages that I can't even get to. First of all, I want to give out my prayers to those in the Big Bend of Florida. The hurricane's coming on in. Looks like there's going to be a big high surge of water coming in the land, and a lot of people are in danger. A lot of property, of course, is in danger, but not as important, of course, as human souls out there. Their lives are going to change drastically in the next 24, 48 hours. So PATC gives out its prayers to the people in danger and for all the loved ones and family across the country, and internationally, of course, everybody who's got loved ones in that area, because they're under a lot of stress. And of course, the first responders that are going to be in action for the next 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. My prayers, the little general prayers, go out to all of them. It's going to be pretty bad. And it is going to be life-changing. Just hoping that that whole community and its people can get through this. So our prayers are sent out to all of them. Everybody affected. Thank you, Antoine Coates, for the gift membership. Holy smokes. Andrew Bennett, you were gifted a membership by Antoine Coates. So please, when you get a chance, say thank you to Mr. Coates. Coates and Andrew Bennett, you are hereby knighted, cloak, and dagger. So you can go to our YouTube channel and watch an early peak Cloak and Dagger episode, membership only episode. Thank you so much for your generosity, Antoine Coates. I do appreciate it so very much. Well, I guess we could have talked about this late last night, but I got to tell you, I've been working so hard. I've been working so hard lately. I could not get it done. So we were going to do the show at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central, but then I caught wind of a whole bunch of other news stuff that's going on today, and I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I cannot do a morning show. We're going to have to delay it, and here we are. Air Force and UNLV are remaining in the Mountain West, sources told Action Network. Now, this was an article of last night from Action Network. It's still not official yet, at least before we came on live. So if it becomes official, people in the chat room, PATC community, let me know. Send us the information. Nobody has signed yet. Not that was reported a couple of minutes, or about 15 minutes, I should say, before we came on live. Air Force and UNLV will receive a sign-in bonus between $25 and $30 million from the Mountain West. The decisions by Air Force and UNLV leave both the Mountain West and the Pac-12 with 7 members each. But remember, it's really the Mountain West when it comes to NCAA requirements on a conference. They need 8 full members. Hawaii is not a full member. I don't believe it's going to become a full member. So, in essence, to fulfill the requirement of the NCAA, and of course to fulfill the requirement of an 18 member when it comes to the CFP, the playoffs, both requirements, the Mountain West, as of right now, if they get all those 7 teams signed, 7 schools signed, that includes Hawaii right now. Even if they get that done here during our live show, they still need to add 2 more schools. Not 1, 2. The Mountain West. The Pac-12 is sitting at 7 members. Utah State was the 7th member, and the Pac-12 needs to add 1 more school. So we know at minimum, now Minnesota math is not too good. I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator, even though I know where every refrigerator is in every room I walk into. We're going to have a minimum at least 3 more schools changing their conference affiliation. At least. Now, who are going to be those schools? I'm going to be very interested to hear what you guys got to say. Unfortunately, here at Peek Around the Corner, as of right now, Thursday, September 26th, at 1:03. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't believe how do I say this? I'm going to start off by saying this. I believe that if South Dakota State and North Dakota State was about to kick the door open, that I would have been told that's the case. Because we've got really good people. We know, especially North Dakota State. We were the ones who broke the news that North Dakota State was going to the Big 12 many years ago in wrestling. You can look that up. We had a person tell us, the same person is there. So I think we would know. And I don't know. I haven't been told. And it's not due to the lack of poking and prodding. So, and I haven't seen any public report. Now, I've seen them listed. Now, maybe North Dakota State, South Dakota State are about to kick open the door and move up to the FBS. And it's so tight that we just don't have the information. Of course that's possible. But I thought, 2 or 3 days ago, I thought for sure that I was going to be able to give you a peek around the corner, whether or not the Jackrabbits and the Bison are kicking the door open or not. But man, we cannot get anybody to talk. Maybe that's an indication that they are about to kick the door open. But we can't, there is, somebody, and I'll somebody in media in one of those 2 states that they honestly don't know. We believe they honestly don't know. So the information is very, very tight, and I don't got to peek. Maybe we're just looking at a situation where New Mexico State, Texas State, UTEP, Sacramento State, maybe all those schools are just the next candidates. And North Dakota State, South Dakota State still is on the outside looking in. That very well could be the case. Very well could be the case. Let me show you Ross Dellinger's report. Again, it has been mentioned by Grateful Trojan in the chat room. Ross Dellinger, Sacramento State in the FCS announces that it has secured millions in funding for a new football stadium, part of a public pursuit of Pac-12 membership. In a release, the school calls on business leaders across the region to join efforts to elevate Sacramento State to the Pac-12. Sacramento State to the Pac-12. I'm having a very difficult time wrapping my arms around Sacramento State to the Pac-12. I know it's not the same Pac-12, but it's still a Pac-12 of Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Sacramento State. I think, I don't even know. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Sacramento State's going to rebuild their stadium. I don't even know how that, again, I'm not trying to take shots at Sacramento State, but they're not even, like FCS. They're not even the top of the creme of FC. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works. I know everybody's saying you got to have a state in your name. I don't know how that works. So we got that story. Now, let's go to another story. Okay, so we, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let let me clean this up a bit here. We've got Big Ten, the SEC, excuse me, the SEC and the Big Ten officials to meet on college football playoff format, the House case, and scheduling agreement. We're not going to go through the whole article. We're gonna blow by some of this article because some of this is just redundant, especially the House versus NCAA. I want to get to the meat and potatoes of this article, and then I want to get to your phone calls. With the Big Ten headquarters in Chicago suburb, the industry's most powerful leaders gathered. That already happened. But next month, in Nashville, Tennessee, the Big Ten and the SEC athletic directors, they will meet. What is viewed as a continuation of their announced partnership in February, the top schools administrators from the two most powerful conferences are going to be meeting. The meeting is significant and historic occurrence. But there's really not going to be, according to this report, not going to be really any major decisions made. I think they're going to be setting the table of where the Big Ten interests lie and the SEC interests lie. And we gave you a peek around the corner on this a couple months ago. Amid a transformational period within the industry, the meeting comes at a sensitive time within college sports, as the Big Ten and the SEC have distanced themselves financially from the rest of the industry. However, those briefed in the meeting do not expect impactful decisions to be made. The athletic directors are expected to begin discussion about a range of topics that they have mostly so far kept within their individual leagues. The House settlement case, enforcement model, we're going to skip through all that. The future of the college football playoff format, and most noteworthy of them all, a regular season and postseason scheduling arrangement. Holy smokes. Sankey and Petiti are both expected to join the meetings at some point in Nashville, Tennessee. From the outside, the scheduling meeting is perhaps more symbolic in nature than anything else. Both sides have been going against each other, warring against each other, fighting against each other, but now they're coming together. Scheduling agreement. The most interesting among the expected topics is a football scheduling partnership for the regular season, as well as a reimagined non-playoff bowl lineup featuring arranged matchups between the leagues. Conference schedule agreements are not unprecedented. The SEC, for example, is part of the annual ACC-SEC Basketball Challenge. Such moves are expected to generate additional revenue to the leagues, presumably from the television networks seeking matchups of the biggest brands in the sport. Then it talks about how Texas, Michigan, USC, LSU did big viewership. Discussions are expected to go beyond the regular season, with the possibility of what officials described as an overhauled postseason for those programs not advancing to the CFP. Administrators are exploring ways to arrange more matchups that pair teams from two leagues as opposed to the current bowl agreement pairings, and those all expire after the 2025 season. So again, all of this stuff, the new bowl arrangement could be starting in 2026, just like the new college football playoff format. is going to take effect in 2026. All of it is an effort to generate untapped revenue at a time when schools are bracing to spend more than $20 million annually in an athletic revenue sharing concept tied to the House antitrust settlement. The SEC school executives continue to hold deep discussions about adding a ninth conference game starting in 2026. Excuse me. We've been talking about that lately, right? The conference is somewhat split on the concept, but a requirement for any ninth league game involves receiving extra revenue from ESPN. And here's the other big one that I want to talk about. Future CFP format, right? So, this all ties in. If the SEC and the Big Ten are going to have a scheduling agreement where they're going to be facing each other, if each conference are going to have most of their teams have a game against an SEC opponent, Big Ten opponent in their non-conference schedule, that's going to mean more losses to these conferences. And then if the SEC is going to go to 9 conference games, that's going to mean more losses to the SEC schools. And does that affect the Big Ten and the SEC access to the playoffs? Are they going to be able to qualify as many teams? Well, as I have noted to you, the Big Ten is still heavily pushing the 4 automatic qualifiers. They probably would settle for 3, but they're shooting for 4. And of course, the SEC would get the same arrangement. If you have those automatic qualifiers, you can load up on non-conference games. You can have a very challenging conference schedule. You can even expand and bring in challenging football programs. You can do a whole lot of things. You can have your own 4-team semifinal weekend. If you're going to get 4 you can do so many things. A lot of different options. If you have those automatic qualifiers in your pocket. And I know that's a lot of negativity for a lot of people in college football. I'm just reporting to you, this is what the Big Ten is pushing. In the spring, FBS leaders struck an agreement with ESPN to extend the college football playoff contract for another 6 years. While the format was not finalized, certain protections included an automatic spot for the top 4 of the top 5 top conference champions, a 12 or 14 team field, that's going to remain. You're going to still have the highest ranked group of 5 is going to remain. The qualification guarantees for independents like Notre Dame related to the place in the rankings is going to remain past 2025. However, the future format starting in 2026 is expected to be shaped by the 2 leagues. Deputies of the conferences, Kerry Kenny of the Big Ten and Charlie Hussey of the SEC, have been exploring not just a format, but a potential change in the selection process with regards to the committee. In other words, they want to take away the power, more power away from the committee and introduce that power to the standings of the Big Ten and the SEC. During the CFP negotiations in the spring, the Big Ten proposed a 14-team playoff featuring multiple automatic qualifiers for the power conferences, 3 each from the SEC and the Big Ten, 2 each from ACC and the Big 12, 1 for the best G5 champion, and 3 at-large spots. 3-3, 2-2, 1. Concept. It received backlash from leaders of the ACC and the Big 12. In an interview with Yahoo Sports on Big Ten Football Media Days in July, Petitti suggested that such a model isn't off the table. We suggested in Peek Around the Corner in August, go to our YouTube channel, find the live show. The Big Ten is pushing for automatic qualifiers, shooting for 4, probably settling for 3. This is all connected, Petitti said. Look, there are differences between the pro models and the playoff formats and what's traditional in college sports. But there's a lot to be said about keeping teams alive late in the season to have a chance to compete. I don't think that's controversial. And then we're going to skip over the rest of that part because we've been over it 1,000 times already. Just warning you. These athletic directors are going to meet in Nashville October. They're going to be laying the table of their interests, what they want to see happening throughout these issues. The regular season scheduling, the bowl scheduling after 2026, and the college football playoff format. We are going to enjoy the playoffs here in 2024, a 12-team playoff. In 2025, we are going to enjoy the 2025 12-team playoff. 5 top conference champions get an automatic berth, 7 at large. Here at Peek Around the Corner, in 2026, it's gonna look different. It's gonna be different. It's probably gonna be a 14-team playoff, if not 16. And there's going to be more automatic qualifiers, not just the conference champions. So, I do not believe. Now, I'm seeing some stuff here. Kerry Gold knows what's up, PATC. Thank you so much for the super chat, Kerry. I don't know if you live in the Big Bend of Florida there. But if you do, we are praying for you or any of your family. If you don't, we're still praying for everybody in the community and all the family members and loved ones who are watching and praying for their family members. So our prayers go out to Seminole Country and all that area in Big Bend, Florida. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity once again. I was Neptune Beach. I will say this. I'm going to make this in regards to a breakaway. In that Ross Dellinger article, which I did not go through the whole thing, again, Sankey and Petitti say the Power 2 are going to push. Now they have this power, they're going to use it. They have the voting rights power to change the playoffs into how they want it. They're going to consult with the Big 12 and the ACC, but they're going to change it. And the reason why we were able to tell you about the Big Ten's continued push on this, because we had 2 different sources telling us, and one of the sources gave us unbelievable, we have the evidence. Let's just say we have some documentation. The Big Ten they're going to get it. I believe they're going to get it. They're going to get what they want. At least 3 automatic qualifiers, SEC 3 automatic qualifiers to satisfy their network partners. Maybe most of the time they're going to get more than 3, whatever their automatic qualifier number is. But they really need it for their network partners. The network partners want it. I'll leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think you can figure out where we got the evidence. But we got it. This is why we were able to do the live show on this a month ago. We're going to learn more about this in October. As far as a breakaway, there's not going to be a breakaway of the SEC and the Big Ten having their own playoffs until, if that happens, it's going to happen after 2029, 2030, 2031. It's not happening now. And I think we're still a long ways away from that ever happening. Number one. Number two, I don't believe it. I think all these protections are going to remain in place. Like, I don't think the G5 is going to have their spot taken away from them. I also believe the G5, while I know there's statistics out there that they're losing more games than ever to the power conferences, of course. But I think the G5 is getting more exposure this year. More people are paying attention to the G5 schools more than ever. And I don't think the G5 wants that to go away. I think they're going to stay in there for as long as they possibly can. The Big 12 and the ACC, whatever happens to the ACC, they're not going to be a breakaway from the Big 10 or the SEC. Not now. Not a year from now. Not 2 years from now. Not 3 years from now. And it may not happen. The chances are less than 50%. Of course it's less than 50%. 6, 7 years from now. Petiti and Sankey don't want it. They don't want it. What the networks don't even want it. What the networks want are the big brands playing each other more often. And we talked about that in the very first episode of this YouTube channel. That's the goal. You can reach that goal without breaking the SEC and the Big Ten away from everybody else. That's what's happening now. More meaningful games during the season. And now there's more meaningful games during the season in the G5. There's more meaningful games in the season in the Big 12. And if they have 2 automatic qualifiers, it's more meaningful content. That is the goal. There doesn't need to be a separation. Well, Greg, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to make so much more money than the other conferences. I know that. You know that. But how many football players can the Buckeyes put on a roster? How many can they play on the field? Same with Michigan, USC, Washington, Oregon, Alabama, Georgia. There's still going to be really good football players playing in other teams, not the top teams. They're going to be very good football players that go to the G5. They're going to be developed, and then they're going to move up to the power conferences. There's going to be good football players at the FCS level that's going to be bumped up. We're all a feeder system. All of us are a feeder system. Of course. Of course. I mean, the Gophers were a feeder system to Oregon. We lost Bucky Irving, for goodness sake. Almost all of us are a feeder system. Except for Georgia, Ohio State, the top schools. The top branded, most valuable schools. But you need you need the other schools. Because there's student athletes, because the money is there. These networks are still making money on these games. All of these games they're making money on. They want the big brands to play each other more often. There's no divisions in these large conferences. They've gone to 9 conference games, and the SEC is about to. We're expanded the playoffs. The networks are getting what they want. I do not see a break. A breakaway is not going to happen. Like when I mean breakaway, I'm talking the SEC and the Big Ten take their ball and they go home. They just leave everybody else. I don't see that happening. I don't see it happening. But that is my very strong take on it. Let me know your strong take on it. We are going to open up. We've been through a lot of stories so far. Let's just open up the phone lines. I want to hear from you guys. 763-260-1333. Is Sacramento State going to end up in the Pac-12? Really? Texas State has been reported by a media member in the state of Texas that Texas State has been talking to the Pac-12 and to the Mountain West Conference. What about Texas State? Give us a call, 763-260-1333. We've always been a feeder program. Almost everybody is a feeder program. Almost everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's true. Alabama lost, yeah, and the big brands, they trade off schools. Players, no question.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is on the line. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. Good morning-ish.
Yeah. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. And it's still technically morning here, so you still got your morning show as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. All right.
You're still good. Very interesting stuff that came out today, and to be honest, I actually kind of find it more interesting than the G5 situation, which is extremely interesting. Like I said, G5 over P5 when it comes to realignment drama. But in terms of this story from Delger, I think this is pretty important. I think it's pretty important that they're meeting on the same day as the deadline for the House settlement hearing, what the judge wants from these folks. I think it's interesting that they're having Dellinger, because we know he is the middleman. He's been talking for the SEC for a while, and the Big Ten Network hired him.
Yeah.
So he is the guy that has direct access into both of these. Both of them can kind of give information to. So that's what they did when they hired him for the Big Ten Network. Is basically now instead of him just speaking for the SEC, he's speaking for both, which is impressive.
Yeah, it is.
But when I'm looking at this and seeing what he's pushing, he once again reiterated that FBS is going to split. Maybe that doesn't happen. I think that's the answer. I think that's what happens. When we look at the G5 situation going on right now, that's kind of why I look at it as it's like a battle royale. Who's going to be able to put together a conference that could potentially move up with? As they stand right now, I don't think any of them have the value to move up with. That's why I call it like a gatekeeper type of conference. Like this is going to be the one that could possibly move up, and then anyone that proves themselves good enough could be pulled up to it. Otherwise, I think most of these conferences in the G5 are going to be left in that if there's 3 subdivisions, there'll be the middle one. And that's maybe why they talked about a G5 tournament. I get it. Maybe you don't agree.
Well, I don't. When they talk about split, what type of split are you like? Are we talking governance split or access split?
It's a governance split. It's going from 2 subdivisions in Division 1 to 3.
Yeah. Now maybe I'm very good chance I'm being naive about it, but I just don't think and this is not a shot against any of the G5 schools or the conference, whatever. I don't think any of them are going to. There's not going to be a conference that moves up. If one of those schools get, however, I don't know how it happens now, but if one of those schools get moved up to a power conference, then yes. But I don't see any of those conferences moving up. I think that's already been. I think that's already given that those right now 6 of those G5 schools conferences are going to be in a different spot when in terms of governance than the Power 4 conferences. But you think that there's a chance that if there's enough value created, that one of those G5 conferences could go above that cut line when it comes to governance? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also agree that you could be right too. Like
Okay.
maybe one of them doesn't rise above, like create enough value in the conference to go with. Because you're gonna the amount of money that they're gonna have to spend means they're gonna have to be able to get a TV deal that helps them spend that. So I agree it can go either way, but I think that's what we're seeing happen in the G5 now. Why it feels so real. Right, like a lot of times when we see the P5 realignment, it's not scripted, but at times it just feels so like there was really only one ending type of a situation. Whereas the G5s right now, because the hierarchy is so, it got so messed up when the AAC lost its top schools. It became much more broad and even, and then with the PAC kind of falling in with those 2 schools and their value, really kind of threw off the hierarchy. So what I see is a real fight. It's a real fight to see if one of these can attract enough of what's left there of the top value into one conference so that it too could possibly get good enough TV deals to afford to move up to that top level with all that's going to happen there. Yeah. So that's what I think is happening. And I don't believe that there is like this is set in stone, like one of them's going to make it up. It's not. I mean, if these guys keep fighting like this and it all just stays divided up like it is, yeah, I think you're right. Then it doesn't happen. Oh. So I don't know, but that's kind of what I see happen with that, because what I think's going to happen, like people talk NFL light, and I don't think that really kind of helps people understand where we might be. So if I could, I just want to share real quick where I think we might go and get your thoughts on that, and then I'm going to get out of here so the next caller can get on.
Okay, go ahead.
Had some discussion with folks, some of them, about how this could go. And this is where I think is you're going to see the early part of the regular season kind of be like an NFL preseason. Now, I say similar because the NFL preseason doesn't count towards records, whereas the early part of the season it'll still be on your records, still affect you in the national postseason, which I'll get into in a little bit, but it'll be effectively like a preseason. You have, if we stick with 9-game schedules, you'll have a cupcake game, because those are actually very important for tooling up your team. If you have an out-of-conference rival, that's where you could have your rivalry game. And then what we're seeing now, which is rising up, are these cross-conference games ended up having the biggest ratings. And so what kind of think about is like a bowl game type of situation, which is now being transferred into the early part of the season, where you have these big cross-conference matchups that draw big numbers early in the season when a lot of other things don't matter as much, like, division rivalries for playoffs or whatnot. So like it gets them earlier season numbers. But then after that, I think you're going to see these conference. They want to have these conference games mean more. And the TV's own words in that article, in my opinion, allude to that. It alludes to like, we'll have these type of non-conference matchups if it doesn't affect our access to the postseason. Well, you've talked about this working towards having increased conference playoffs. Well, guess what? If conference playoffs mean more to the postseason in terms of who gets access then into like a national situation. Well, now you can have those big out-of-conference games, and they don't affect you as much.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to affect your seeding or your placement within your conference.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going. And I know you talked about like the needing the AQ positions for their network partners, and I agree with that 100%. I think you're dead on with them, and it sounds like you've got all the evidence in the world of it. I just think that for them, they're saying, if we're going to continue with the CFPS, this is what we need, and this is what we need it. And I think everyone's going to look at that and say, ugh, this is. I think that fans overall are just not going to like this. And I'm not just saying like fans that aren't P2. I think even as an Iowa guy, I'm looking at this going, I don't like that. I don't like that we'd have like a certain amount of positions that are ours and a certain amount of positions that are the SECs, and then the Big 12 gets. It's too much. It's too much tooling around. Like, I understand tooling around happens behind the scenes. That's what they do with scheduling. You know, that's where the magic happens of how you make things that seem purely chaotic not be quite as chaotic. But it's too much, and I think that's the way it'll be. And it's too much of a headache. So I think that leads us to this other thing that you have been alluding to, which is a conference playoff, and that leads into then the smaller national playoff. So, and if you compare all of that to the NFL, it all lines up. So for the network partners, they look in and say, we understand this. You have your preseason, which is the early season. You have your regular season, which is the conference scheduled season. You have your conference playoff, which is the equivalent of the NFL playoffs. And then you actually one up the NFL instead of just having a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You have.
I want to make one thing clear, though.
Yeah.
When I talk about possible conference playoffs, a 4-team conference playoff, when it has been mentioned to me, it has been mentioned not as a product of a national playoff. In other words, it does not eliminate teams that go to the playoffs. In other words, a conference playoff in the Big Ten doesn't make it so. That is just determining the conference champion, much like a basketball conference tournament doesn't eliminate teams from going to the dance. It's just a process of getting your conference champion. I think what you're alluding to, what you would like to see, or what you think is could potentially happen is the conference championship tournament is really creating your conference champion, and only that school is going to go to the tournament. Correct?
Eventually, like no timeline for that happening, and this stuff doesn't happen in leaps; it happens in small steps.
But I'm just making sure that we're both. It's kind of
we're in different spots because you're with the present day, and I'm talking future. And the reason why I think they would do what you're suggesting is because they don't have the rules yet to do what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
So got to find a way within the current rules to start testing, start figuring it out, start getting numbers. So that way when you go into negotiations with network over maybe something much bigger, you have some numbers in your favor. Otherwise, they're going to lowball you.
Yeah.
So I think that is evidence of what you're saying is evidence that they do want to go to this other thing, because what you're saying doesn't add anything new. It doesn't add any more money. Whereas adding more postseason games to the conference lineup, especially for a conference like the Big Ten or SEC, that's huge money. Huge. So, yeah, that's it may not go that way, but to me, that's where they push to one way or another is because they're going to need more money to do this thing, to do what they're doing, the payouts, because they might be talking about, they need to split from the NCAA in this positioning and this legal thing. So, but that's a whole other story. We're going to probably see that come up here soon, and we'll talk again, but I'm kind of curious to see what folks have to say about the situation.
Appreciate it, Mr. Hawkeye. Love the call, man. Okay, great great call. I got to get caught up here. John Teal, dear Wyoming, UTEP, New Mexico State, equal pay, Pac-12. I don't think Wyoming. I don't think. Hold on, everybody. Hold on.
Call from
Lewis,
can you hold on for a second? I've gotten myself way behind here.
Sure.
I appreciate it. A lot of kind people donating to the channel to help us keep our lights on, and I have not gotten to them. John Teal, dear Wyoming, UTEP, New Mexico State, equal pay, Pac-12. I think the only school that would be in contention for out of those four to be that eighth member is New Mexico. But I could be wrong, John. I could be wrong. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Dear Texas State, name your price, PAC. Texas State seems to be a wild card right now. They moved up. They're one of the biggest dominoes left for the Mountain West. Pac-12. We'll see what the Bobcats, see if they can get in the door. Thank you, John Teal, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Preston from Greensboro. Holy smokes. North Carolina. He's still celebrating the Tar Heels victory over my beloved Golden Gophers. Thank you for the 5 gifted membership. Elias Gray, David Kreitzer, Tom Watson, Jack 512, Joe Tucker. When you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Preston from Greensboro for his incredible generosity. Thank you, Preston from Greensboro. All of you, all 6 of you, have been knighted cloak and dagger. Thank you, Preston. I appreciate it so very much. Papa Cade gifted a membership out there. Holy moly. And I don't know who got that gift membership. It was Russell Buchanan. Russell, when you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Papa Cade. Papa Cade, I appreciate it. Both of you have been knighted cloak and dagger. For those who are new members to our growing national college football channel, go check out our YouTube channel. There are episode membership only, cloak and dagger only episodes for you guys. Check it out. Thank you for all your donations. Help us keep the lights on. Lewis, legendary caller, I apologize. Thank you for your patience. The floor is yours.
Very good, Greg. Very good. Well, first, on the national front with the Big Ten, the SEC, it's interesting they don't want to break away, and that's probably because while they can engineer the best games, you have a few problems. The first is Notre Dame, because it seems like Notre Dame is determined to ensure they never can break away. I don't know if that's their goal, but as long as they stay as an independent, then that keeps the top 2 schools, top 2 conferences from breaking away. And also, I mean, if you look at the TV ratings, some Big 12 games still get between 3 and 4 million viewers. It's not the 6 or 7 million that you're going to get out of a Michigan-USC matchup or Texas and Michigan. But I think if you cut those off completely, you're fracturing the viewership. And if you do that, it weakens the overall product. So I don't believe they'll break away, but what it comes down to is how much they push the envelope before it creates issues. For now, I think a lot of knowledgeable football fans, and you have to realize a lot of casual fans don't even know this, when you see an SEC or Big Ten school lose to somebody in the Big 12 or ACC, or especially to a group of 5 school like Toledo beating Mississippi State, you're wondering how mismanaged the program is in the SEC or the Big Ten that they would lose to a group of 5 school, because that should never happen financially. It just means they're mismanaging their money, and that's a good thing when you see teams like Toledo going to win, or Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame.
It's drama, and that's why we watch.
It makes it interesting. So I don't think they'll break away, but how much they push the envelope is going to be a key, because there has to be every once in a while someone besides them competing, or else people will lose interest, and the only way it's going to happen is, as you said, with missing of talent. If people miss on talent, somebody's a good player. But that's the first thing. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the playoff. I am concerned they will go to some system that will make it more difficult. But we'll see if the Big 12 and the ACC, where they come out of it. Do they get a second automatic bid, or are they left out completely? And we'll go from there. The group of five, what's going on with the Mountain West and the Pac-12 is just, to me, it just sounds like people don't want to lose their jobs. And so these conferences, even though it makes perfect sense for the 14 teams to be one conference out there, they're going to go ahead and have two separate conferences. It reminds me of you're paying all those salaries, all of the infrastructure for two separate conferences when the pot is so small that this is ridiculous, and it's going to hurt everybody. And it gets to the point where now if you're UTEP or Texas State, you can demand a lot of money if they really need to get to that eighth member, because you have to pay your exit fees to leave your conference, and they have the other conferences over the barrel. And I hope that they get so difficult that they end up just merging, because that's really what should happen. Yeah. They've sued each other now in court, which is not going to work. I mean, it might work, but at the end of the day, a contract was made. It sounds like it was a pretty fair deal, right? Yeah. They said, we'll work with you on a scheduling alliance because you need us to schedule games. You don't have anybody to play in 2024 or 2025, but if you poach us, we want, payment for that because we're working with you. So I don't think that lawsuit, they're suing each other. Yeah. They're acting like children, and I don't know where it ends up. Maybe they end up getting teams, but overall, there's just not much money there because there's not a lot of interest in a game, in these conference games, unless they're playing teams from power conferences or from the Big Two. And on Sacramento State, unless they're like SMU, they have some benefactor out there that I don't know about. That makes no sense. Why would you pass on San Jose State? They're not a great program, but at least they exist. Why would you pass on them for your conference and add Sac State? That just does not make any sense. I'm not aware that they have some large fan following. I mean, they're talking about 25,000 seat stadium. That just makes no sense to me other than for money. And I also wanted to ask this question. I'll hang up. But I'd read somewhere an article where there was some concern among the Power 2 conferences about having more teams join the FBS. That somehow dilutes the money or risks diluting money, and they really don't want to see schools like NDSU, SDSU, perhaps Sac State. They don't want to see more teams to the party in these conferences. They really want to keep the number of FBS where it is, which starts to dilute the overall product. I don't know if that's accurate, but that would be an interesting point if it were, about perhaps why you don't see a lot more teams moving up. It's an expensive process, and if it ends up if it's not going to pay out in the next iteration of the playoff, and on that they probably can be more heavy-handed because people aren't going to be that concerned about the lowest of the low, then that might make it, again, more difficult for these two conferences out west to get teams 8 and 9 when it comes to the Mountain West and team 8 in the Pac-12. And so I look forward to your thoughts and have a great show.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Beautiful call. Beautiful call once again by Lewis, legendary caller, Mr. Duke Blue Devil. I do have a couple of thoughts. Marcus Williams, if you're watching hoping for an upset instead of wanting to watch the best versus the best, then something is wrong in your logic. I like both. I love both. I love watching the best versus the best, and I like, I find myself rooting for, I say it on my watch parties. I root for David to beat Goliath. I root for my Gophers. I don't root for conferences. Sometimes I root for a coach. But I like both. Why not have both? Here is the part here is what I want to say about it. Okay. Here's the thing. John Till, I have an idea. Pac plus Mountain West Conference, that's 14, plus UTEP, Texas State, that's 16. Hawaii equals 15, plus N equals 16. Problem solved. Oh, and Gloria is driving the bus. Thank you, John Teal, for your super chat. I don't think there's going to be a merger. I've always said I'm not a merger guy. Some of the reasons where Lewis just said, there's a lot of, nobody wants to lose their job. There's a lot of politics. A merger is a tough boulder to push up that hill for it to happen. This is what I want to say. let's pretend for a moment. You know, you have those people out there, God bless them, who are absolutely obsessed with the idea of a Power 2 breakaway, where the Big Ten's 24 teams and the SEC is 24 teams, and they break away from everybody else. That could happen. But here is the biggest problem with that. Do you know, when you're watching these football games, when you're watching them on ESPN, ESPN2, the CW, when you're watching these college football games, they make money. They make money. They make money. They make money. They make money for the media company. The advertisers, they love live sport content. Yes, the bigger the viewership, the more money they make. Yes, that's why the Big Ten Conference makes a whole lot of money, because national advertisers like to put their stuff on their games. Same with the SEC. It's a little bit different, but same with the SEC. It's why the Big 12 makes what they make. ACC. These media companies make money on these media deals with the conferences. And the advertisers like them. They seem to get a good return of investment. Live sports content is king when it comes for national advertisers. My point is this. A Big Ten conference of 24 teams, an SEC conference of 24 teams, does not provide enough content. These media companies don't want to see all this other content disappear. Yeah, it doesn't. All this other content doesn't make as much money as the big content, but it still makes money. That's why the bowl games still exist. That's why there's 40 of them. Because they make money. If they stop making money, okay, they go away. And so people are so obsessed with this Power 2, Power 2, Power 2, Power 2. Okay, yeah, there's a Power 2. The two conferences, they have the most power. And we cover the story. They have the most money. They don't always have the best teams, but usually they do. Whatever. Good. That's fine. But this obsession of just walking away, the networks don't want that. They want there to be a dramatic, competitive games across large swaths of this country with schools that are not as big as Michigan, not as big as Ohio State, not as big as Florida and Gainesville. They want other games out there because that live content makes more money than the rerun of the Happy Days. It does. It does. So you don't want to blow a hole. The networks don't want to blow a hole through all these other, the value of all these other schools. They don't want them just to wither away and die away. That MAC conference game in November on a Wednesday night, that game makes money. The gamblers in Vegas itself, all these entities, they don't want this games to go away. They don't want Western Michigan to go away. They don't want Liberty to go away. They don't want New Mexico State to go away. Should Michigan have more power and voting? Yes. All that is happening already. Consolidation, yes. This is why USC joined the Big Ten. But this idea that everyone's just itching to push the Big Ten in the SEC away from everybody else, it ain't true. It's not. Because the money is in everybody making money. Why go to a NASCAR model on this? There is a difference between a Power 2 where they have more influence than anybody else, and they're gaining that influence. And we have said that at Peek Around the Corner. And then there are people who talk about Power 2 in regards to separating themselves from everybody else. And then there are those people who completely just go back and forth, bounce around to this Power 2 idea, and they're moving goalposts constantly. And one day they're saying, you know how it works. No network who has live sport content wants a 48 school to break away and then to devalue everybody else. They don't want it. Okay. Lewis, Duke is beating North Carolina on Saturday. Holy smokes. Lewis has called his shot. He has called his shot. Well, I tell you what.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Lewis, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. That's probably going to happen. I agree with you. It wasn't one of the games that we had for our selections, for our picks against the spread. Thank you, Lewis, for the super chat. Thank you for your incredible generosity in all your contributions to our show. The phone lines, I was about to say, are open.
Call from
Steve-O.
Steve-O, the floor is yours. Let it rip.
Hey, I got a few questions you can give short answers on if you want. Number one, does North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana, do they feel the best they could ever do is to be like a Wyoming?
I don't know. Good question. I don't know. You know, you always want to... Coaches and programs always believe that if they just had a little bit more resources, they could compete at a higher level, right? That's why coaches,
right,
successful coaches, move to bigger jobs because they just want a little bit more resources. Same with programs. Good question. I do know this. The only thing I do know is this. The Bison fans and the Jackrabbit fans, while they may not be big in numbers, they are huge in intensity. I don't know if any of you guys have been to a ball game. I'll just give you an example. 2019, I went to the opener, Gophers versus South Dakota State. South Dakota State came in. It was a very close game. The Gophers won that game in the end. Gophers went on to be the 10th ranked team in the country that year, and they barely beat South Dakota State in the opener. The Jackrabbit fans were incredible. They were unbelievable. They were loud. They were into the game. It was something. I just sat and watched them more than I watched the game. And you hear that over and over and over and over again with Jackrabbit and Bison fans. And I've had my experience with Bison fans. Incredible fan base. Not big. because, obviously, I think if they went to the Mountain West Conference, they would travel to those Mountain West games. They would go to Wyoming. They would go to Nevada, Reno. They would go to those games, and I think they'd be a valuable pickup. I just don't know if that is what the Mountain West Schools Conference is looking at, but I don't know what their ceiling would be. Great question.
Do you always feel like the Dakotas or the FCS schools is just a backup plan?
Yes, we felt that for a while here.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I still feel that way. I do know that South Dakota State and North Dakota State have made it publicly known years ago that they were waiting for an opportunity in the Mountain West. They were not interested in the MAC. So this here is their opportunity. I just don't know where they are in the pecking order. They might not be at the spot they need to be in. I do not know. I'm rooting for them. I'm hoping for them. But I don't know. We can't get an answer. We're unable to get an answer.
Okay. Monday and Tuesday, I got told up. I got the feeling you had some information on James Madison. Am I wrong on that, or is there something out there you've heard?
I really don't have. Hold on a second. Hey, can you wait a minute? I just want
Yeah.
to check my email real quick. I'll make sure I don't put this up on the screen. I'm going to make sure I don't go picture in picture here. Hold on one moment. James Madison's future, or at least their perceived future, is to the American Athletic Conference. One of the things I was waiting for was if Air Force was going to be the 15th full member of the AAC, but it did not happen. But if Air Force would have been the 15th, I would have made one more phone call and I would have came on here and started talking about James Madison. But it did not happen. So I don't know if James Madison's going to get that opportunity now or not.
So you think AAC is going to stay at 14?
I don't know. I do not know. I
What
just
about the
know
Sun
if
Belt?
Air Force would have been the 15th, I would have been talking about James Madison today. But I'm not going to do that right now.
Any thought on the Sun Belt adding a couple schools?
The Sun Belt, if they lose some, yes. But these conferences can't. They're not in a position. Same with the AAC. I think maybe ESPN might have given them a little bit of a go ahead and try to get Air Force. But the Sun Belt, I don't think they're going to get the go ahead by ESPN to go ahead and add schools right now. You know what I'm saying? I don't think. I think if the Sun Belt loses Texas State, then obviously they're probably going to have to add somebody.
Okay, my last question is, any chance the PAC goes back and offers Tulane and Memphis more money?
Is there a chance that the PAC will do that? Possibly. I'm very sensitive to the fact, I say that realignment never sleeps, but even there is limitations. Once a school, like these presidents once they reconfirm or they've committed on a move or they've reconfirmed that they're not moving, boy, you do not see them changing their mind. Like, that is why I'm waiting for UNLV to actually sign this agreement with the Mountain West and Air Force. And I'm probably in the minority on this, Steve-O, I don't see the AAC schools being in play anymore for the PAC in this realignment wave. I'd be surprised.
Well, since the Mountain West offered 25 to 30 million to UNLV and Air Force, I'm just thinking if the PAC offered 25 to 30 to Tulane and Memphis, how would they turn that down?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, a PAC with Tulane and Memphis would be very comparable, I think, to the future ACC once they lose, say, 4 schools.
But for whatever reason, they were not offered that the first go around. So, and while I may disagree with the Pac-12, they must have had some reasoning, and for them to go from $2.5 million suddenly to offer $25 million would be bizarre, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they could offer 15, 17, whatever number.
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
It's a one-time payment. Yep, guys. Yep.
All right, that's my list for now.
All right, appreciate it. Great call, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be quite the transition for North Dakota State, South Dakota State. It has been quite the transition for Sam Houston. Jacksonville State has been pretty competitive. We'll see what happens with Delaware, the Fighting Blue Hens, when they join Conference USA, I believe next year, correct? 2025? So, I agree with you, Vox. I agree with you. You don't... 2.5 million, and then in Missouri State too. Yep, Immaculate. Yep, 2.5 million, and just now suddenly offered 25 million. It just doesn't work that way. I would be surprised. I think this. Okay, so, and I know people disagree with me. I think Immaculate disagrees with me. I think a lot of people do. I happen to think there's going to be 6. I think it's going to be a G6 in 2026. I don't think it's going to be a G5. I think it's going to be a G6. However, I would be a lot more confident in saying that once I see it's official that the Mountain West schools have signed this agreement, where they're going to get a signing bonus, where they're going to stay on. It's not official yet. It isn't. It's not.
Call from
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues. Thanks for calling. Can you give me a little bit of time here?
Sure.
Appreciate it. What's official? Ross Dellinger? Ross Dellinger says it's official. Okay, it is official. I was just starting to talk about it 55 seconds ago. Thank you, Sia. I see it. Beautiful timing. Okay. Hold on, everybody. Hold on, Movie Time Blues. Give me a little bit of time here. Ross Dellinger, the 6 remaining full members of the Mountain West, including UNLV and Air Force, have signed the binding commitment agreements Sources tell Yahoo Sports. Mountain West Conference is expected later to release the per-school tiered distribution of sign-in bonuses derived from the Pac-12 exit fees. The remaining unsigned Mountain West member is Hawaii. As a partial member in football, Hawaii does not impact the agreement. So let me get back to what I'm saying. And then we'll get to you in the second Movie Time Blues.
All right.
I think we're going to remain we're going to have a G6 in 2026. I cannot see any of these conferences going away. The only the MAC's not going away. The Sun Belt's not going away. The Mountain West with this agreement's not going away. The Pac-12's not going away. The AAC's not going away. Conference USA, they have a grant of rights that you only get 800,000. And I don't care if a New Mexico State leaves or a UTEP leaves. I mean, they're going to be able to back. Conference USA is going to remain. I think they're all going to remain. You're gonna have 4 power conferences, and you're gonna have 6 G6 conference. I think that's how it's gonna happen for 2026. And of course, realignment never sleeps, and we're gonna have more changes as we go on. Movie Time Blues, thank you for your patience. Thanks for the call. The floor is yours. Let her rip, sir.
All right. I have to think that UC Davis is going to factor in at some point in the next few months because they're in a position that, let's say the Mountain West or the PAC is not interested. Conference USA could jump in and say, okay, you and Sacramento State could join us, and they'll have a presence in the West. So if I'm Sacramento State and UC Davis, I could say to the Mountain West Conference, you have a chance to lock down the Sacramento area and prevent any other conference from jumping into the region.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see I don't see Davis. I have not heard them when it comes to the Mountain West. I don't think they're a Pac-12 candidate. And I have not heard them as a candidate for the Mountain West. But I'm. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, but now that we have this, before they didn't have any pathway to the FBS because the PAC was, the old Pac-12 was there already, and they didn't need members in that general area. But now with all the chaos that has been going out, now there's a pathway that's opened up.
Mm-hmm.
So
all right.
Now, I'm going to say that the PAC may end up going with Texas State eventually. But in the next few months, we may hear a lot from UC Davis and Sacramento State.
Yeah, Michael Smith, who's been a big proponent of Sacramento. Again, Sac is ripe TV market, full of Bay Area transplant. Again, I'm. All I can say, Movie Time Blues, is we should be finding out pretty soon, right? Who the Mountain West Conference is targeting, because now that they've got these 6 schools signed, Now they know there's going to be a Mountain West, and now the candidates know there's going to be a Mountain West, and they need to add at least 2 more schools. The phone calls, I'm sure they've been ringing off the hook already, but if UC Davis has any interest, I'm sure they've been calling. They're trying to get a representation down there to talk to the Mountain West and Sacramento State and the rest of the possible candidates. So I think now that we've got this announcement, I think the phone lines are burning, and UC Davis is probably one of those universities.
One more question. What do you think the chances are that Hawaii could end up being a full-time member of the Mountain West Conference?
I don't, well, I don't know, to be honest with you. I know in the, there was an interest in the old Mountain West, but, and this is prime, I don't think it's going to happen, if I had to guess. It's a good question, though. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Again, the Mountain West is going to have new membership here. They don't yet, but they're going to have new membership. And that might change the dynamics and the membership that have left the conference. Maybe the thoughts will change on it. Ryan Brooks, I don't think the Mountain West wants Hawaii SFO, but that was the old Mountain West. This is going to be the new Mountain West Conference. Maybe Boise State was set against it. Maybe a couple other schools. I don't know. I don't know the dynamics, internal politics of the old Mountain West. I would guess there'd be an opportunity. I would, if I had to put my chips in the middle of the table, I would put them on the side of it's not going to happen. But I don't know for sure, Movie Time Blues.
Yeah, it's not. It's start to consider alignments that weren't possible just a year ago.
Yep.
So, now that it basically becomes anything goes at this point.
Yep. All right, man.
All right.
Movie Time Blues, I appreciate it. I haven't heard from you in a while. I appreciate your phone calls.
Yeah, I've been listening, but I never had like a real good reason to call until now.
All right. Well, nobody really has a good reason to, I appreciate the call, man. I do.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Okay.
Movie Time Blues. Great phone call. Outstanding phone call. I always like to hear from Movie Time Blues. Baringer, Manangai, All Day Friday. They're going to need him. Rutgers is going to need him. Steve-O, Pack, with Memphis and Tulane equals ACC without Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Notre Dame. So you would still have, I don't think so. You still would have in this, you would still have Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, Miami, Georgia Tech. I don't think so, but the gap would have closed. Anyway, look, if the ACC is without Florida State, Clemson, in North Carolina, and Notre Dame, and has all their other membership, the ACC is going to call Memphis, Tulane, UTSA in South Florida, University USF. And with those 4 schools added on, the question will be, would ACC retain their power conference status. If the AC, and I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think this is going to happen. I think the ACC would lose more than this and then become a G6 conference. But anyways, I don't believe Steve-O. I believe the moment that ACC loses Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, they're going to get Memphis and Tulane. Memphis and Tulane would take the ACC over the Pac-12. But anyways, thank you for the super chat, Steve-O. I appreciate the generosity and your phone calls. Appreciate it, my man.
Call from
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute is on the line. The floor is yours. Utah. Big win over the Cowboys, 22-19. You don't need Cameron Rising. Utah looking pretty good. All right, man, you get the floor. Let it rip.
Wanted to open up a conversation about the end goal, okay? The end goal of this P2 breakaway discussion that you kind of brought up here about 15, 20 minutes ago in the show.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ross Dellinger article, you covered that.
Yep.
Dellinger saying that, in the bowl system now, the P2 want to play more games with each other. There's a push to go to 9 conference games. There's a push for the networks to get more P2 content in the regular season. Man, I'll tell you what, it's pretty clear what the networks want. They want these bigger games, big ratings. Makes sense, right? They're making a lot of money and everything. Yep. What's the end goal here, though, Greg? So the end goal, this isn't for the good of college football. This is for the good of the networks making money, which makes sense because they're a business. But, I want to know what you think the real end goal is here, because it doesn't look good if you're not in the Power 2 right now. The Big 12, it doesn't look good at all. And here's an example of it, as far as the promotion of it. Even that game, Oklahoma State-Utah, got stuck on a mid-afternoon time spot, and Ohio State Marshall got Big Noon on Fox.
Yep.
And got the premier time spot for that game, Ohio State Marshall. And then the premier Big 12 matchup maybe of the season gets a mid-afternoon time spot. So looking here and being an outsider looking in, it's what the heck is going on? It feels like there's just a runaway. If you want to call it a breakaway, a clear breakaway, or a quasi-breakaway, I don't know. You can call it whatever you want, but it feels like the networks have picked their horses. They're going to invest in those horses, promote those horses. They'll still have games on for other conferences, but they'll slowly stop promoting that content and eventually just bleed those guys out and make them less relevant. You can call it a feeder system and call it whatever, but basically leaving them behind and screwing programs like Utah. Utah's got a legit team this year that could win a playoff game, can make a playoff run, and in the future, is that even possible anymore? So what's the end game here for the Power 2, and what's the end game for the networks?
Well, I happen not to think that they have a complete vision of what the end game is. I don't think that Sankey wants to break away completely. I don't think Petitti does. I don't think their presidents want to. I don't think the networks want it. But on the other hand, they want this economics consolidation is still going on. They want bigger brands, just like you said, bigger brands to play each other, more money in everybody's pockets, more, all that stuff. I don't think, on the other hand, that they want to completely devalue everything else that's out there, because, quite frankly, they need the inventory. They want the inventory to be valuable. The Big Ten and the SEC are never going to be able to give these media companies enough inventory. The good news for Utah and everybody else outside the Big Ten and the SEC is these big media, these digital streaming companies, Amazon and Apple and who else. I just read an article, I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday, but the year 2029, things are going to break wide open. like the NFL has a look in 2029, and everyone's expecting, like Google and who, there are going to be lots of media companies jumping into the sports arena more than ever. So everybody's going to want inventory because live content brings so much more money to their media companies, and they can do a higher rate on advertising. Yes, one of the problems, Utah U, is the gap is growing. And you've said it, like the gap is growing. Utah can compete now. Will they be able to compete 4 or 5 years from now? Because the stratification line, that's why USC jumped. That's why Oklahoma, Texas jumped. I don't know Utah U, but I know it sounds depressing. It's tough. It is.
It is depressing.
It is. It is.
It is.
It is depressing. It is. I think we'll probably see like I think what we're going to see in 2029 and 30 is the next consolidation, in where there are more schools, and I don't know how this is going to work. Not like a full merger, but the top brands of other conferences merging so they can not be left behind when it comes to this consolidation, this economic stratification. For example, like Utah, I happen to think that Utah, if we're just talking about Utah, I happen to think that they are on the Big Ten candidate list, okay? I'm not saying they're going to get there, but they're definitely on the candidates list. But if Utah doesn't get to the Big Ten, I think there's going to be a third conference that's going to emerge. There's going to be more consolidation underneath the Big Ten and the SEC. But it's
like the Big 12 and the ACC consolidate together with the best of the rest and compete.
Yeah. I think there's well, at least I think there's going to be more. The same economic consolidation forces that had USC call the Big Ten is going to be the same economic forces that's going to have the top brands in the Big 12 maybe want to call the top brands in the ACC. The same economic forces that may push the top Big Ten schools to call the top SEC schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there's going to be more waves of it. None of this ends here in, the next 5 years, the next 6 years. There's going to be a growing economic gap. But, I don't think anybody has a real idea how this is all going to end up, because I don't think there is an ending point to it, to be honest with you.
Could that next consolidation, could it be led by the Florida State Seminoles?
In which way?
If there's a best of the rest formation.
Florida
State, right? I mean, with their push to get into the Big Ten or the SEC, if that is not still in the cards within the next few years, are they going to be the ones forcing that issue of the best of the rest?
I think that's. I know a lot of Seminole fans would disagree with me on this, but that's a possibility. It's an that could happen. I mean, that could happen in a way of, let's say they make a deal and the Gore ends at 2030.
Mm-hmm.
Those top brands they're leaving. Let's say they start talking to the SEC and the Big Ten in 2028, 2029. There's still no interest, or the Big Ten, the SEC is really only interested still in North Carolina, Notre Dame. They're gonna be trying to form a conference with the best schools in the most valued schools in the ACC, and then maybe think of a West Coast wing, right?
Right.
And I keep repeating myself, but Florida State and Clemson are going to look out what's best for them. And if they can't get into the Power 2, they're going to try to create something that is way more valuable than what they're in. They might not just join the Big 12. They might try to crack the Big 12, just like what's going on here. But and I know this doesn't help right now. Wow, I don't have any solutions. But all I know
the solution is another media partner. But you mentioned that the solution is getting another media partner.
But that's going to happen. The Big Ten and the SEC. Okay, a lot of viewership. But they cannot fulfill all the inventory needs. It's not happening. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you an example. It's apples and oranges, okay? It doesn't quite work. But the Longhorn Network, right? The Longhorn Network was the network for the Texas Longhorns, a massive institution, millions of fans, right? Big brand, their own network for their third tier. And it didn't work. It absolutely did not work. It collapsed. It did not work for Texas. It did not work for the Longhorn Network because Texas could not provide enough live content to the Longhorn networks. It was replay after replay. That Longhorn Network wasn't valuable at all. Nobody wanted to subscribe to it. It had some, of course, in the state of Texas, it was worthless. At the end, it was worthless. That's how, if you just have the SEC and the Big Ten are never going to be able to provide enough live content for all the media companies that are going to be thirsting for it. They want it because they make money off it. They're not going to get. That is my biggest statement I can make. The Big Ten going to make more money than the Big 12 schools? Yes. And the gap is pretty big now. And maybe it grows a little bit more. But I don't see. And is Utah at a disadvantage versus Ohio State? Wild Ute? Yeah.
Yes.
But you know what? Teams in the Big Ten Conference have been at a disadvantage against Ohio State for decades. Some of this stuff is never going to go away, right?
Right.
I mean, none of this is. I mean, some of us schools in the Big Ten, the SEC, get our doors blown off every year. And most schools would because of the incredible advantages they have. That's not going away. But I don't think, a Utah is not going to get kicked to the curb. There's just too much. They are sort of right now in the sense that they did not get a good time slot, right?
Right.
But we're going to a streaming world that's not quite ready yet. I don't think we're all doom and gloom here, but I do understand. I understand as much as I can that it sucks right now, and it's going to be bad for the next 4 or 5 years because now the Big Ten, and the SEC are trying to get more bowl game, higher bowl games and more quality. They're pressing the envelope. They're trying to serve their interests, just like the Big 12. The ACC, I know, and I've reported here, there's a couple things that the Big 12 has in the works that's going to bring them more revenue. And I think it's going to be announced at some time during the football season. So they're going to do something kind of dramatic. Yeah, I don't have an answer. Wow, dude.
That's okay. I think like the answer still is like that third media partner, like because Fox and ESPN, they're going to promote their investments in the B2.
Yeah.
And if this thing goes to 24 each, if the Big Ten and the SEC go to 24 each school, then you got essentially 24 games that you could show every week and stuff. With bye weeks, you're probably looking at 20 games a week. You could put a lot of content on ESPN and Fox with 20 games.
Yeah.
Like every single week of the season and everything. And guess what? The Big 12 is just not going to be featured, especially on Fox. So they need to find something else, like a partner that actually is going to want to promote their content as big time content, because right now it kind of feels like second fiddle content to, Big Ten content.
Yeah.
But anyway, taking too much of your time,
No,
Greg.
it.
Awesome stuff.
I have no answers. No answers whatsoever. Just like I don't
Take
have
care.
any answers for my Golden Gophers, I have no answers.
All right, take care.
Appreciate it. The evil badger, Ryan Willie.
Call from
Evil Badger.
Evil Badger, I was just going to do your super chat. Can you hold on while I do your super
Yes.
chat? Ryan Willie, when is the Army-Navy game? Go Army. It's always the Saturday.
I was wondering if the CFP affected it.
No. Army and Navy game is not even going to be a conference game in the AAC. So
No, I mean the CFP affecting the game.
the playoffs, no.
Yeah.
No. What's going to happen is the AAC. I'm going to have to do more. I had all that figured out before. If somebody in the chat room can help me out, I think it's the same time every year, but it's not ever going to be a conference game. The AAC championship games are already going to be figured out before that game is played, and I think the playoffs are going to be. I don't know. I'm going to have to check that out. But thank you for the super chat, Ryan. I'll get an answer for you.
But the reason why I'm calling is I have to disagree with Ute, saying that the 11 o'clock time slot in the Central Time Zone is a prime spot. Getting up with the farm animals that early is not very good when you're trying to find a parking spot in Madison at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so we're talking. What are we talking? Farm animals, like? Oh, you think that noon spot isn't good because if you're a farmer, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well,
I think he's talking about is that big noon spot on Fox is what they promote, and they get big.
But getting up that early.
Yeah.
Getting up that early to try and find a parking spot in Madison is not good.
Yeah. And I think he probably would agree with that if he was still on the phone. But I think what he's saying is not that the 11 o'clock game Central Time or the noon Eastern is an attractive time slot in regards to the time of day. I think what he is saying is the Big Ten has such an advantage in that time slot because the Big Ten teams are getting put more into that spot and it's getting promoted the heck out of it, while the Big 12, a Big 12 game is being put on ESPN2 or FS1, whatever. Like, it's not getting that big noon, all that marketing and branding and all the people and all that stuff. I think that's what he's talking about. But I get your point.
Okay. Plus, I believe you had said in the past that he would like Utah to be in the Big Ten.
I'm sorry, what was that? I was coughing.
I believe you had said in the past that he would like Utah in the Big Ten.
What about Utah in the Big Ten? I think.
While Utah has told me in the past that he would like Utah in the Big Ten.
I think Utah is going to be one of those schools that are going to be on the list for the presidents to look at in the next realignment wave. Yes, I do. I firmly believe that. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to join the Big Ten, but I know I've reported this in the past. One of the advantages that Utah has is they have a good institutional, respected relationship with USC and Oregon and Washington. So that is a big deal. That's why I think they're going to be on the whenever the Big Ten expands again. If they eventually go to 24, I think Utah is going to be right in the mix.
Personally, I would like Kansas better than Utah, but in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
their basketball program is top notch.
Yeah. Could be.
All right, well, that's all I had.
All right.
So I'll let you go, and thank you for letting me speak on your platform.
No, I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for calling, and I appreciate your generosity, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
You got it. Great call, Evo Badger, Ryan Willie, Thomas Moss, all peek around the corner team. A moment of silence for my Gators. Everybody put your head down. I feel the love. It's going to be a very interesting off season for the Florida Gators. They're probably going to make a move at the top. It's a huge, massive value brand. It's going to be a job that a lot of people are going to want. You're not going to be short of candidates. I don't know about Lane Kiffin. I don't know if he would be interested. But I think a lot of people are going to be interested. And Florida is going to be what? Florida going to be the top job out there? What other job is going to be bigger than Florida during the coaching carousel? The Florida job could be LSU. We're gonna get a surprise or two. Go Gators. Gator fans have been tracking flights since after week 1. Ohio State, if they lay an egg. If Notre Dame fires their head coach. Man, Notre Dame, they got a tough game against Louisville. They've got to beat Louisville. And I don't know if they're going to beat Louisville. I know they play at home, blah, 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 blah. Notre Dame hasn't been playing very good at home, especially during those day games, but they haven't been playing good at home. And they played terrible last weekend. You want to talk about Notre Dame against Northern Illinois? Yeah, they lost that game. They got beat that game. That was a legit loss, not a fluke. But that game last week, they were horrible for the first half. They played a team that was incredibly limited. Notre Dame would have lost to a lot of teams last week. If they play like that against Louisville, they're going to lose. Notre Dame's been playing like Greg's picking. Absolutely. Absolutely. Easy. Either Marcus Freeman or the fat guy from Minnesota is going to have to pick up their game. Rough time in Gainesville. Okay, so what's, I'm going to check the latest news here. Seeing we are caught up with all the reporting. And that hurricane going to Big Bend in Florida has intensified to a massive Category 3. And it's tracking north towards the Florida Panhandle. The water levels are already rising. It's going to be terrible. I'm feeling so bad for those people down there. Just terrible. Anyways, I think I'm going to close it up for this live show. I appreciate you all coming on in. Again, keep your head on a swivel. We might have to come on live again tonight with big breaking news. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel and have the notifications turned on. Smash the like button if you've liked our content on your way out. I want to thank everybody for your donations, for the wonderful comments in the chat room. Ryan Willie, Notre Dame will not make the college football playoffs. Thank you so much for your super chat. Kenneth Maynard, the only school besides Air Force I can see the AAC adding is one from Virginia or Georgia. Maybe James Madison and Georgia State. James Madison is the one we're keeping an eye on, Kenneth Maynard. I mentioned that early in the program. Thank you for your super chat. Very much appreciate it. Thank you, Ryan Willie, Steve-O, Lewis, John Till, Papa Cade, Preston from Greensboro, Kerry Gold Nose, Antoine Codes, and Expedition Greg. Thank you for all your donations to help us keep the lights on. Thank you for the wonderful comments. Everybody, appreciate it. And the great phone calls. Again, make sure you subscribe and have those notifications turned on because there's a whole bunch of breaking news about to go. Realignment's not over. We're heading into week 5. We're going to be doing a watch party tomorrow night. A double watch party. Holy smokes. We've got Miami of Florida and Virginia Tech is going to be the primary game. Watch party Friday night, tomorrow night. We'll see you then or later tonight. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.